This is the next video in the series on the secret phi angle. In this video I'm going to show another technique to identify price and time based solely on these angles. So I'm going to take two of the three basic angles which are plotted with the orange trend lines on the screen. So you can see that our largest angle is plotted here and our middle angle is plotted here. So then what I do, I've written the instructions down in the upper left on this note, these two notes up here. Take the key angle, strike a vertical line at a pivot point, plot a horizontal line at the intersection of the vertical angle and our phi angle, and that will give you a price level. Then there's a secondary technique. If you look at the horizontal price level that was created, look where it crosses the next angle for a time pivot. So what I've done, let's look at the first large angle here. I've plotted two vertical lines at this swing high and this swing low. And where they cross the angle here and here, I've plotted two horizontal lines. So what you can see, that gives us price levels. You can see the lower level here, we had a gap and then it became resistance, kind of a cluster point, and then support here and then a support area down the road. The second level, we had resistance here where we got a consolidation, a break back down to our first level. We had resistance here before it finally broke out. And then if I look at these levels where they hit the next angle, you can see where this lower horizontal line crossed our second angle, where I have the little circle right here. This price level gets the pivot in time. So I dropped a horizontal line there. I'm going to pull it aside so you can see it. You can see it was a low point and a good trade opportunity where you had that price and time together right there. And you got that big wick candle, hammer type candle there. Now I'm pulling in another chart where I've got a little bit more of these plots already put into place. I'm going to take one more plot off of the large angle here. I'm going to drop a horizontal line on this pivot point right here, and that's going to give me an intersection right here. So I plot the horizontal line, and that gives me this particular price level where the first time it breached, but then we had gap, we have support, then we have resistance, then we have support, then we have another gap, then we have a gap through here, and then it becomes resistance here. So an effective price line. Now let's look at some more price lines. So we looked at the three examples from the larger angle. Let's take a look at the second angle and the points of pivot intersection there. The first point right here that's actively involved in the price is at this pivot here, and where this pivot vertical line crosses our angle creates this price level right here, which gives me the point of the most recent low in Tesla, 525. So that was triggered back in August of last year, and that gave us a future price level to watch, which ended up being this low point right here. The next one was this low right here, which was tied in with the prior angle. Projecting that intersection is right here. That gets us this horizontal line at about 662 or so, and that's in the area of that prior low, but the other angle was more effective in catching the exact point. Now, I'm not going to go off of every pivot because they do generate horizontal price lines that are relatively close to each other. So I'm going to grab this pivot low here where I have the circle right now, and that particular low was on 1221.21. That crosses the angle right here, giving me this horizontal line at about 760. You can see that was breached, came right back through out of there, became support in front of a big run up, then became a resistance area here, here, and here. Next pivot, I'm going to grab this low here. It crosses the angle right here inside the circle, creating this horizontal line about 799. That was again breached the first time, became a gap point, and then became resistance here and here. We'll do one more, marking this pivot of this big spike there, that big gap down and then big up bar that crosses the angle here. That horizontal line plot doesn't do anything immediately, but in the near future it catches this low, triggering this 5-day upswing. So I've only shown a few examples based off these two angles. If you use all three angles, you'll get some other points. But the whole key to this is not just projecting every pivot across the angle. What you want to do is find the points that are mathematically connected between two of the angles, like I showed at the beginning of the video. Because when you find those connection between the lines and the angles, you're going to get the key trade setups at price and time. Switching over to Amazon, I'm going to do a quick example. The same two angles are in play. I'm going to take the first high angle, plot vertical line at this pivot, and where that intersects, that gives me this horizontal line right here up at 154, and you can see the gap effectiveness, the support and resistance that was on this particular price level for a long time. Not a lot on this particular chart we can get off of that first angle unless I shrink the action and run it way up, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to run 3 levels off the lower angle, which is the second angle, and then you can see where I've selected this pivot, and this pivot, and where they intersect the angle, I was able to plot these 3 horizontal lines, and you can see that the low was caught, the first reaction off the low was caught, and then the reaction off the double bottom was caught, along with a minor resistance point here off that 2-day reaction up, triggering the swing down. So overall, pretty good points. Now I'm adding the third angle, which I didn't show yet, and you can see that's the lowest angle down here, and you can see that particular angle when the price action started in this run down, it gapped right across that angle and continued down. That just proves the effectiveness of these angles as valid entry points. Now looking at a couple of pivots, if I take where this particular pivot crossed this angle, that's right at this level here, that's also giving me a zone of that prior horizontal line, which was a nice hit right here for these lows. So you can see that those two levels together lock that low point in, that little double bottom there. The next one, if I stick with this pivot high where it crosses this angle right here, if I pop a horizontal line in there, that gets me into the area of a gap resistance point and another gap. So again, anytime you get gaps or pivots off these levels, that proves the energy is there. Let's take a new one. I'm going to take this pivot here from recent pivot from March 8th. We'll drop a horizontal line where that crosses at this level right about there. That kind of is close to that prior level, that little reaction high, and then that zone there gets us to the most recent pivot. So this is really a very simple application, a very effective application. You can do this with your basic chart tools on most softwares.